Am I audible at the back? Okay, perfect. So before I begin, how is Identity Shield 2024 holding up? How are you liking? Are you liking the experience so far? Lots of learnings? Great. So let's hack. So before I begin, how many of you guys expected me to turn up in a hoodie? Show of hands. Okay, and how many of you guys expected way too many monitors and a dingy room? All right, take it. That's good. So that's just a few misconceptions that we have around hackers. Not all hackers are like that. They are just regular people, and I'm just getting into cybersecurity and I'm just getting into hacking a little bit. So just a regular guy. All right, so about me a bit. As Nakul mentioned, I am a Manchester United fan for the past 25 years. I have been a programmer for the past 20 years as well. And I do a bit of ethical hacking in my spare time. It's just fun. I'm just a curious cat. I love coffee. I think that's a good combination. A curious cat, if you can call me that. All right, so let's cover some stuff. I will give a brief overview of hacking, what it is, what it entails. Then I don't know if you guys attended yesterday's session on OWASP as well. So I'll be going through all of that again in a lesser detail. Then I'll be going over a few tools that we are going to use and mention the application, which is the OWASP Juice Box. And then we're going to do some stuff on that application, which is going to be a live hack. So just a show of hands, how many of you guys are done with the prerequisites and are going to do it live? Okay, perfect. So great. We'll have some time on our hands as well. So I am not going to reserve my questions till the end. I can just make sure that you guys are not getting stuck or anything. I'm going to share a common clipboard of any payloads that I'm going to use. So if you want to use, you can use from the clipboard. I'll share it when we're doing the hack. All right. Great. Perfect. Let's move on. I actually have a clicker. Let's use that. So what is hacking? First of all, before we go into what is hacking, we have to see what organizations are going to protect. That is generally data, any sensitive information, any credentials, any customer related information, any credit cards. Those are generally termed as digital assets because they basically mean, okay, this is what people are paying me for. This is directly linked to any financial gain, financial assets, or it is just something that I need to protect. Those are generally termed as individuals or assets. So hackers generally go after those assets. They want to get those credit card information. They want to get those credentials which will make them access further additional sensitive stuff such as servers, such as applications, those sensitive SPII and PII, which they can then sell on the dark web, for an example. So, and one more thing, it's not just an individual that is a hacker. They are also a hacker organization. So if you must have heard of those state actors, as we can call it, those backed by Russia, those backed by people in the Middle East who are not ethical, but they just go and make sure that they are able to infiltrate those sensitive systems targeting defense, targeting any financial stuff, financial banks and all. So those are generally organizations which do that, right? And how they do that is that they exploit something in the system, some vulnerabilities in the system or the networks, and they're able to exfiltrate data. They're able to gain remote access to those systems. That's how they do that. So just a brief overview on the types. There are 3 types. White hat. They are basically ethical in nature. They basically take consent from the organizations or the applications, and they have very limited scope on what they're doing. They don't blindly attack a system and try to make sure that the system can break. They target a specific portion, they scope it out, and then they do their payloads. And they make sure that that system that they're attacking, the area they're attacking is, they're allowed to do that. Or they take, if they're not explicitly allowed, they generally take consent from the organization that is hosting that system. Black hat is the malicious one. They don't care about what application they're attacking. They just want to get some information out of it and maybe hold the organization to ransom. And their motive is mainly financial in nature. And gray hat is sort of like a mixed area where they do want to get some information out of it, but they somehow convince the organizations, okay, this is your system, I have done something, I have found some chinks in your system, please pay me for it. Right? Moving on. There are a few steps which most hackers do. Before we just move on to that, we are going to, I'm going to make sure that we are all doing ethical stuff. So if you're planning to do some attacks on some system, make sure you do it ethically. You do not have, you have consent to that application, especially on live programs. Right, there are a few steps, 6 steps that most ethical hackers perform. We'll go around them step by step. First step, reconnaissance. So it's not just that you know the in and out of a system. It's generally consider a system where you do not have access to. So consider a newer application that you have. You do have to figure out some stuff before you end up attacking. You don't blindly do that. So that step is reconnaissance. You try to get information about the target. You try to play around with the target if you can. There is something called OSINT, which is open source intelligence. So let's say you want to attack Google. You try to figure out if there is any information which is readily available on the internet. There are OSINT sites which give you all that information about searching. And then you go around, play around on different search engines. And you do darking, which is basically patterns that give you definitive results about something. So that you do at the reconnaissance step, and then you move on to the next step, which is enumeration. So once you know about a basic about a system, you try to figure out what all is there, what all components it involves. Let's say there is a network. You try to figure out what are the different hosts associated, what are the different systems connected to that network. It can be servers, it can be PCs, it can be mobile devices. So you try to determine what all hosts are connected, try to determine the IP addresses of those systems. Then any sub-networks that are associated to that network. Different endpoints, different APIs that are available that you can try and attack in future steps. Any files that are exposed on that system. Any devices that are connected, such as printers. So, quick fun fact, just because it's a printer doesn't mean that you can't do stuff with it. A lot of hacks have gone through printers and common file shares. Next is the actual exploitation. Don't go by that image. That's not how it works. So you basically try to gain access to that application, to that network, to that system. Once you have access, what do? You try to escalate that access. You try to get root access or admin access to that system or that network. And once you gain that, you try to disclose, exfiltrate as much data as you can to your system. And maybe try to execute a few commands on that. Just having initial access is not enough. You have to maintain access if you want to do an attack. So that maintenance access is you do end up creating backdoors so that let's say you want to try to access that same system again after a month. You need not do that whole exploit again. Those exploits can take time as well. So you create backdoors. You create backdoor accounts. So that helps you maintain that level of access throughout the system. Right? Then once you're in the system, you try to see, okay, what else can I do with this? And you can try to figure out what all databases are there in that system, what all systems you can have, what all servers you can have access from that initial access. You try to maybe get into their Active Directory, create an account there. That enables you to attack different systems connected to one application or network. And last, getting there is good. You have to exit out in a way so that people do not know that you were ever there. You have to hide your audit trails. You have to make sure that people do not get to know that you were ever there. You obfuscate file locations. If you're putting stuff to maintain access, then you obfuscate those files. You maintain so that you are able to maintain access to it. Okay, so we are going to mainly be concerned about web applications because that is what we are going to do in the live demo as well. So why do we do that? I think I explained it in a couple of slides. It's generally to get privileged information, SPII and PII, and financial gain. That's probably, second one is probably the bigger one, right? Next, OWASP Top 10. So like I mentioned in yesterday's session, it's open worldwide application security project. It is an open source, it's a non-profit organization, which the best thing it does is it comes out with a list every few years about the 10 most common and critical web application and API related vulnerabilities. And the current list has all these broken access control, cryptographic failures, injection, insecure design, vulnerable libraries, SSRF, data integrity, and authentication monitoring failures. And let's go through a brief of them so that we are going to actually use a few of them in the actual exploits. Broken access control is probably the biggest one, and it's my personal favorite to find and exploit because it allows me to do escalate my privilege and do some stuff which I generally should not be allowed to do. Users can be anonymous or an actual user account. They can do stuff outside their privilege set, or it's basically violates the least privilege. And this generally happens because there are either incomplete access controls or a total lack of access controls. And what it can do, it can help in escalation of privilege. You can basically get an admin access to the application, database, or servers. You can access that unauthorized information and probably access or modify the data in your database. Injection. These are surprisingly very common, that improperly validated or lack of validations can allow users to do stuff on systems that you should not be allowed to do. Those can be running of commands, running or accessing unauthorized data, or even exfiltrating data. SQLi, cross-site scripting, and command injection are the most common one. Are the three types. And what it can do is can lead to remote code execution, which is basically you executing commands on that system, doing stuff, running programs, creating backdoors, or leaking privileged information. SQLi, basic payloads that for forms that directly interact with databases. And that can lead to information disclosure, or you can even end up modifying, tampering, or even dropping that entire database. That's pretty bad stuff, actually. It's first SQLi actually came out almost 30 to 35 years ago. And surprisingly, it's very common. People just do not validate their input. I cannot emphasize that enough. You just have to validate your inputs. Cross-site scripting generally happens because you inject scripts into websites. That also happens due to improper validations, and it can lead to session hijacking, data theft or disclosure, or even remote code execution. So we are actually going to try a few injection scripts this time. Command injection. So again, due to payloads on forms, so these work slightly differently because you end up doing OS level stuff such as creating files, modifying permissions of executables, and even files. And it can lead to privilege escalation. You can actually or print out sensitive files, such as I think I did a session yesterday and I was able to print out the passwd file of Linux using, it was not really command injection, it was more towards pass traversal, but something as similar as that, and or even to compromise access to the entire system. That's something that you can do through command injection. All right, so cryptographic failures. So there is one thing about setting up the application. The next step is securing access to that application. So the first thing that you do when you're securing access is that you set up SSL or TLS. You encrypt the communication so that any access to those systems, I'm talking in terms of web apps, you try to communicate securely over it, and that communication channel is encrypted. So using having a lack of TLS exposes all of your communication. That's an insecure communication, so doesn't really help because all of your information is basically in plain text, so it can easily be read. And unsalted password hashes, you basically hash your passwords, but you do not introduce a dynamic element of salts that can allow you to break a password hash by using rainbow tables. And or if you are using weak cryptographic ciphers, anyone uses SHA-1 for hashes? No, not a very good idea to do that in this day and age. There are way better cryptographic ciphers which are available, so might as well use that. And also one more thing I want to touch was integrity. So if you're using digital signatures, it's a very good idea to be making sure that those files or whatever information is doing, it has a signature aspect to it, so that you're able to you're able to maintain that data which you're sending is not being compromised in that manner, has not been changed during transit, which is something actually we're doing in this session today. All right, coming on to the toolbox. So I guess the best application that I can come up with that most people use is Burp Suite. We are going to be using the Burp Suite Community Edition today. There's a connected application called Foxy Proxy, which is a browser-based extension. I'm going to primarily be using Firefox, but if you have any other browser extension, if you're going to use any of the other browsers, you have very similar extensions that can enable you to proxy your traffic. And a couple of tools using Kali Linux that we're going to use, so I will be coming to it. Burp Suite, I guess it is the go-to for anyone who is venturing into hacking. It has a very good 4 features that are there: proxy, intruder, repeater, and collaborator. So I am actually going to be covering that in the next few minutes, so I'll touch on that side. And if you already have not installed it, it's a good idea to do that right now. You can use that ports figure link which is there and install it. Right? I'll put that on the shared clipboard if you want as well. Kali Linux, I guess it is one of the most commonly used system OS for penetration testing and digital forensics. It has a very good tools. So basically, Kali Linux is not an OS which it's not a software. It's basically a system which pre-packages all of these tools which are anyways you can install on other systems. It has Burp Suite installed by default. It has something very good called Nmap, which is used for discovery and attacks on networks. Metasploit, which has some pre-built payloads and for executing common attacks. There's a John the Ripper, which is basically for password tracking, which we're going to use today as well. And SQL Map for SQL injection, and Wireshark for network traffic detection, network packet analysis actually. And you can install it. They recommend it to install it on VirtualBox, which is what I've done as well. And you can get Kali over there on that link. Juice Shop. So it's a deliberately insecure web application. So why do we use that? Is because, let's say I'm a newbie. I want to get into hacking. And my first thought was that I need a way for me to learn stuff, for me to try out stuff, and then be able to execute on live programs. So what these guys at OWASP did was they created deliberately vulnerable web application. It's a terribly shitty application to use, but it gives you a way to actually practice what you learn on different labs. So we're going to be using that and doing some stuff that we want to do as an attacker. Like the 6 steps that we learned for hacking, we're going to try those out. Okay? And so the best way to install it is using Docker, which is what I have done as well. It saves me the time to set up all the prerequisites, and so they have a good Docker image there. So that's how I have set it up. But you can host it on any virtual machine and set it up as you want. All good? This is how it looks like. I think it's built on Node.js. So we're going to see it live anyways. All right. So anyone has any doubts about the environment that we're going to be working on? Or do you guys have it set up? All right. So let's go and hack. Unethically. Oops, sorry. I didn't need to do that. I'm going to exit out of the screen, and first I am going to show you about Burp Suite. So are you guys able to see, right? All good? So the first main thing that we saw on the 4 features is the proxy. I think it's one of the best ways to get all the HTTP communication which is happening between the client and server. So it allows you to intercept those requests and then do whatever you want with it, right? So there is a way where you add a host to it. We're going to add a host after when we actually do the live settings, and then we're going to have a look at the HTTP requests that we have and how we can modify those. Okay. Intruder has a set of payloads that you can try, different attack types, and you can configure different payloads over here and attack any target that you want. So we are not really going to use it here, but it's a good way for you to create a payload and a set of payloads actually, and try to attack it on, like, run a script where you can attack it a few number of times. Different set of payloads that you can try. Repeater, I guess, is one of the best features, is that you can take an HTTP request that you've seen before and repeat that request by modifying it. Great. So that's about Burp Suite. We are going to configure it as well, because right now it's just a plain Burp Suite application that you see here, but we need some configurations on that. Great. So I will show you about OWASP Juice Shop. I think it's already open here. I'll first create a list here. I'll call it Identity Shield. I'm going to share this. Let me know if you guys are able to see. You can try accessing it. I'm going to use this as a shared clipboard, so that anything I want, I can type it there and you can get that information, right? So this is OWASP Juice Shop, and it's basically an e-commerce site which they've created. They've modeled it on an e-commerce model, and you have a login page here, and what all you can see is basically a lot of stuff here, such as feedback. So now that we have the juice shop here, which is running on port 3000, so I'll try to expand this a bit. I don't know whether so I'll paste. So it depends on how you're accessing it. I am accessing it on localhost 3000, so I'm going to continue using that. Whatever different thing you have set up, you can continue to use that as you wish, right? So and there is one browser extension that I have, which is Foxy Proxy. So how this will work is I have set this up in port 8080. So whatever, actually, let me first do that. The first thing that you have to do in Burp Suite is add what target you're going to attack, what target you want to listen to. So there's a target option here, and I can add a target here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add localhost 3000 here, and just make sure that you press yes here. Otherwise, even if you are accessing by Google or anything, even those requests will be added to the HTTP request history. So I would recommend pressing yes here. And so that's all the target there is, and that I needed to add. And there is a proxy section here. So there's a proxy setting. I am going to be listening the proxy on port 8080, right? And in the request interception rule, I'm going to make sure that we intercept only the requests that are in the target, which is localhost 3000. Okay, so these two settings are important. And how do I quit this? Okay, close. I have not enabled the proxy yet. So, and anyone has set up Foxy Proxy before? Just show of hands. So what you do is go to Foxy Proxy, click on Settings, and quick add this. Click on Quick Add. Okay, this interface has changed a bit. Oh, there's an option here. So I can just go to Proxies, click on Add, and let's type the title as Identity Shield, and type in port as localhost. And my proxy is set up at 8080, so you can just do that and click on 8080. If there is any authentication on your proxy, you can have the option for username and password, but I don't, so I'm just going to click on yes, save, and it's get added. Yep, it's added now. And to enable the proxy, I'll just click on this, and there's an identity shield here. I'm going to set this. Now it's enabled. So now I will go to localhost 3000. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to intercept any requests. Actually, it is going to intercept, but that packet is going to get dropped because I have not enabled the interception here. Just go and intercept this, and just try to refresh this. So if you can see, I get all of this HTTP request. I have the option to forward, intercept, or drop the entire packet itself. Right now, I want to access this site, so forward. You can see the actual endpoint which is visible along with any headers that are being sent. So it's a good idea to be looking at what you're forwarding. So initially what I do, I end up forwarding all the requests just so that my target history can get populated. I can then use and see them at my own time. Right? So I try to do a lot of forwards here. This socket information is basically an internal call that's happening. So these are going to come n number of times. So I'm just going to forward those packets as well. It's going to click on forward to all of them, and then going to turn off interception. My site will get loaded up proper. And then when I go over here, I am going to see a list of, basically it enumerated what all was accessed on this entire HTTP. On one request, all of this got populated up. Okay. So let's look at something which we can have a look at, what all different things was called. I'm also going to open up a text editor over here, and I'm going to write down stuff what we did. So what all things we found and what all things we can use. So there's an API challenge which is there, which you can have a look at, the request and response. So it's not really much. It's basically a gamification of stuff that you can do. So what they've done is they've created a whole challenge around what all stuff you can find. And they have some pre stuff that they know that people should be able to find. So they've created a challenge around it, and it's a good idea to want to finish that whole thing. So that's just an API call to that, and they try to get a request on that. There's an API quantity. So basically, I think what it does is it tries to fetch stuff here and how many quantity of whatever stuff is available. It tries to fetch that, and it's a JSON related thing. So I'm just going to term this as APIs over here. I'm likely going to need to increase the font of this. Oh, tell you what, I'll do it here. This is visible, right? Quantity, right? Yeah, quantities actually. So I'm going to write it down properly. Okay. Next is basically an en.json, which is, I think is just messages and all, which is going to print up. There's an admin configuration, which I think is we can have a look at. So yeah, I think what it's doing is it is getting some configuration about what it's running on. So this is actually pretty basic stuff, and yeah, not much to do here. I'm going to skip past the socket ones. This basic first page, it's giving a 3 or 4, not modified because it's cached. An assets folder. There's a main.js. This can be something to look at. And product search. It's a REST endpoint, so I'm definitely going to write it down. So why will I tell you? Because it has a query parameter in here. So query parameter, as soon as I see somewhere in a GET request, I'm like, have to attack this. So we'll be using this somewhere. Okay. A runtime JS, I think these are CSS, the again API challenge. And yeah, so I think that about is for what I wanted to show initially, that we have been able to log a request. So we are yet to cover some stuff about repeater. Let's use something. Okay. Now, did I mention that there's a feedback section here? Right? Able to see, right? Whoever is trying, any doubts so far? You able to get till here? Whoever is trying, I'm not able to see properly, so all good. I'm just going to ask every few seconds about it, and I'm going to move on after that. So if you got to jump, you just shout out, and I will assist in that. All right, so I see the screen here. So I think it's just for anonymous feedback, or if you're signed in, then you can give a feedback about it. You can type in some stuff. Hi there. And there's a rating option here. So I think it's, okay, there's a captcha also. Okay, let's try to get Burp Suite into it. Okay. So I think this captcha is, okay, BODMAS anyone? I think it's 21, right? So let me intercept this request once. Proxy intercept. And I'm going to submit. Oh, it's not allowing me to submit. Oh, this thing is mandatory. Oh, all right. Okay, let's do that then. All right, so there's a rating here. Oh, okay, great. Let's try to submit initially. I want to see what happens. As dummy thing. Again, all of this socket stuff I'm just going to ignore. Oh, there's a rest. Who am I? I'm going to add this at least to the list of what we get. And there's a captcha element to it. I'll also add this. Okay, socket, and there's an internal probe. And forward, yeah. And I'm going to stop intercept. Okay, I think that got submitted because I'm seeing the screen now. So, what do I see here in the list? There's a feedback thing here. So I think it would have been a post to it. Let me just confirm. Okay, feedback, yeah. There's a post request which is coming here. So the whole request is in a JSON here. All right. What does it allow me to do? I can modify this request on the fly. So let's do that. Intercept and the test identity shield. And for this, I'm just going to give a 5-star, and 6 and 15 is right. I am just not going to give a rating. Let's see what happens. Is it going to allow me or not? I'm not sure. Hades. What happened? Did it allow me or did it not? Apparently it did. No, apparently it did not. Okay. All right. That's fine. Maybe I could have given a 0 for it. So yeah, that's how I can modify stuff on the fly. All right. So let's move on. What can I do on the system? I see an account section, login section. So the first thing that I generally see when I want to attack something is I want to figure out where the good stuff is. And by good stuff, I mean the administration section, right? So what do I have here? I have a main.js file. And I think you'll find this here as well. The main.js is over here. Oh, I can see here, sorry, my bad. Yeah, there's a main.js file which is included here. So the first thing that I generally do is I try to figure out, I just do a search on this, and I'm basically searching for admin here, and then trying to see if I can catch something at notice, any endpoint which is there, any inclusion, any calls which are not going in the front end but they are generally being called. So I just try to look at it. So there's a REST admin section which we saw earlier also, and there's an application configuration, again a REST endpoint, few texts there, and okay, all right, fine. Bear in mind, this is not going to be quick. It takes time to find all of this information. So there are around 26 matches to this. So let's see what we get. There are few passwords that are there. I think it's just probably the challenge which is there, but I do intend on trying it somewhere, but not sure if it'll work or not though. Okay, somebody's writing this admin. Oh, there's something called administration here. So let's see if we find that there. Yeah, there's a path over here. If you guys can see, it's a path administration. So let me try this. So this is good. At least I found the admin site because it's showing me that I'm not allowed to access. So at least I was able to find the administration section. There is an administration. So yeah, let me write that down. Right. Next, now that I have an admin section, I want to see how I can get an administrator access. Okay, so what I'll do, I will try to create a regular account first and see what all APIs are called and what all stuff we get. Okay, so I will go ahead and create a login. I think that will ask me to, so yeah, it gives you a host of options for login, creating an account. Let's try that. Not yet a customer. So test identity shield. Test identity shield at gmail.com. Okay. Just put in a password twice. Okay, I get a little tense around security questions, but cool. Star Wars. Let's go to proxy and turn it on so I can intercept. Okay, so a lot of information is coming through. And I'm just going to forward it because I want to create an account. Even my password is in plain text. Just saying. Don't try this password anywhere, okay? So there is security endpoint as well. Security answer. Let me write this down just in case. Again, sockets. Hit the sockets. And I get an HTTP history. Actually, I can get, this stuff is easier to get. It shows me the latest history and I'm able to filter it here as well. So what did I get in users? So there is a users endpoint. I should definitely try this. Right? And it gave me a security questions endpoint as well. Oh, security questions as well. So let me just write this down. All right, perfect. Now there was an endpoint for me to actually create a user, right? So I was creating a user. There would have been an endpoint to post that data. Oh yeah, so this one. All right, this is fine. I'm getting a lot of stuff here. This is a role stuff. If you can see, it's showing me as a role as a customer. So let's see if we can, and I also saw that there was the API/user section. Now, since it was posting some data, I want to see if I can get a list of users. Right. So let's try to get that. Oops, sorry. So the way we do that, I do not want to go on the front end a lot for this. So what I do is I use something called repeater. I go click on here, right click, and I send to repeater. So repeater, I basically have the option to modify all the information that I want over here. Okay. So this is an endpoint where it's expecting a post. So I want to get a list of users. So why not? I'll just get rid of the stuff because I'm not going to post this information anyways. and I can send this information. It's waiting. Somehow it's proxy on. Eh. Okay, that seems to be working. Somehow it's not picking it up, but let's see if we're able to send some other information. The repeater is not so working. Weird. Oh, so okay. Probably it's not a endpoint which is there accessing. Okay, that's fine, not an issue. So that's fine. That's how you use repeater basically. So I'll close this. I do not know how to. It's somehow not accepting. It's probably not going to accept anyways because it's probably not an endpoint. All right. So I was able to create a user like this. Now my hacker mindset shows me there is a role associated to it, but I do not know whether this role can be used as a parameter to update that. So what I'll do is I'm going to repeat this, and I'm just going to add a role section here, and I'm just going to try admin first just to see if that works, and I'm going to send it. Email must be unique. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Rest stuff can remain. And okay. It did accept that information. So what is wrong over here? It should not have allowed me to even add a role parameter there. Role parameter should be server side. Secondly, I should not be allowed to create an admin user, but it did. And let's try to log in with this admin user. Let's see if we see anything different. Not here, but let's try to access that administration section that we have. So we see a lot of stuff with reviews. Okay, that's fine. This is what I did, I think, last time in that when I was trying with that anonymous user. Fine. Okay. I can have the ability to delete all the reviews actually. So, okay, that's great. Let's log out. And let's have a look at the APIs that we have to see what we can do next. Okay, that's fine. Not going to target this much. Quantities. All right. Let's see what we do over here. Let's see if I can update any information. Okay, it's basically adding stuff only. So this is all it does. Oh, so basically what happened was I can get a list of users, but it demands some information. and is saying that authorization header was not found. So let's see what we do. Let's try to get some API which has an authorization header already there and see if that works. So this does not have, ooh, there is something big here, not here. Cookies. Okay, what is this? There will be some, at least, with an authorization header. I'm hoping, because that's generally a good practice to put authorization headers. Something somewhere. Oh, there is some API. Who am I? So let's see if this will work. I go back to my repeater and I just add an authorization header. Oh, list of all users. And their roles as well. That looks good, right? So let's see what all we have here in the response. I'll just add this to what we did. Got a list of all users. Perfect. So we have the admin here. That's good. There's an admin role assigned to it. So yeah, that guesswork did work. There is a gym user here. Lovely. So a lot of stuff here. All of the users. A lot of them actually. Alright, so there are around 23 users. Wow. Great. So when we are going through what all we want to hack, right? So I want to maintain access to, like, my user can get deleted at any point in time. So what do I want? I want to get someone else's credentials. Okay. So a lot of users here. My interest is in this user. The reason being, this guy is called Jim. And identity theft is not a joke, Jim. I'm going to get this user's credentials somehow. Right? So what do I do is I go back to the juice shop. And I mentioned there's a text box here earlier. Text box, I think, was for this endpoint that we saw here, which is the products one with the query parameter. So this is the one, I guess. So I want to get a list of all the passwords, get a list of passwords, or may see if this thing has something SQL injection in this. So let's go back to this endpoint and see what we get. It's going to be that query parameter thing. Yeah, this is the one. So I am basically going to send it to repeater. And the first thing that I'm going to try is I'm going to put an apostrophe on this and see what happens. So it's accepting, at least. What happens if I do this? Anyone familiar with SQL queries, right? So you know what a double dash is. It's basically starting a comment, I think. So basically, if I type that, it's going to ignore the rest of the stuff. Great. SQLite error. And it's being so dumb, it's even printing out the query. So I can see that there is 2 subqueries there, 2 brackets there. So let's see what happens here. yeah, at least it's liking it. And one more feature I want to tell you about. This is a get query. So what I want to do right now is I want to make sure I am able to send URL encoded parameters here, right? So I just right click on this and click on URL encode as you type. So I do not have to go on an external site where I can just URL encode stuff, right? So it's going to put a plus sign there. Union. So basically what I'm going to do is a union select query. Basically means it's going to do a union of two tables, and I'm going to guess the table name. Obviously, one is obviously called products. I'm going to type a user section because that is what I want. Union select. Maybe so. The next step is basically placeholder stuff. So I'm going to put 1,2 just to see if I can get. So basically these are placeholders for you doing a union, and I'm going to type in users just to see how it is. All right. Union select is giving me an error. It's giving me an error stating that it did not like. See what it does when I press a star. Okay, actually it has to be like this. All right, so this did work. What it's showing me that the select does not have the right columns on the right side. So I'm just going to try it till it says, I'm just going to put dummy stuff. It's still not allowing. So till we get the right number of columns, it's going to keep giving me this error. Right? Still not allowing me. Okay. Let's try 7, hopefully. Did not. All right, it did work. So now it's still, now there's a common thing that there is the columns in the table on the left hand side, which is products, and the right hand side, which is users, has the same number of columns, but it's still going to give me the ID here. The column names on the left hand side, which is products. I want to make a change of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in username and email. Let's see if it accepted. It did. So at the bottom, if I go, it's a union, so it will start giving me this gym. So this basically the second column is giving me the name, the email address basically, or the username, whichever one. Actually, the email address, and the username is actually not set for that user, which is the first column. So I've got the username. Let's try to see if it even has a dump of the passwords. It does, apparently. So let's try to find the gym user again. Amy, Bender, Beyond, Chris Pike, CISO, Jim at Juice Shop. All right. So this payload, I'm going to put that in the clipboard. Try it out. Oh, actually, I don't know. Did not get created earlier. You guys can scan this QR code to get that clipboard if you want. So I've shared the payload there. All right, so Burp Suite, I have the password now. Seems salted, right? Not salted. Seems hashed. So which is one good thing that these guys did, that they at least salted it. Hashed it. So let's see if we can use something called John the Ripper to break it. So I'm also going to share a link. John the Ripper basically is a tool which can allow you to do password cracks. Okay, so I'm going to share this link in the shared clipboard first. There. Okay. Destroy when viewed. I should not destroy it. I'm going to share the payload again. I actually have this here. And I'm going to create that clip. So now you should at least be able to see it. Give me a hands up if you're able to see this on your system. If you want to try the payloads, that is. Alright, so I have this password hash. It does not look very familiar to me. If you're not familiar with this, John the Ripper has a very good, it supports a lot of different types of passwords. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at all those types. So a lot of the hashes look a certain manner. If you look at a DES for Kerberos thing, it starts out like this, and then it starts out with $K, and then it goes with this thing. Okay, so does not look like my payload looks like this, which basically starts with E5 basically. So I'm going to look at all of these and I'm going to see which stuff looks similar to me, right? Definitely not like this. Definitely does not start like this or this. Generic crypt. Okay, so it has a username aspect to it. So it's prepended by the username. So no, definitely no. Traditional DES. Nope, not like this as well. This does not have documentation, so I'm not going to try it. Same, does not look like this. Definitely not this, because it seems like a big hex. Not digest either, it is prepended by something, right? Nope, not like this. Definitely not this. Prepended by that actually. Not this, not this, not Kerberos tickets, not DES, starts with the LM, not Lotus. Gen MD5. Okay, it starts with $1 again. So this is a very good link which you can use. MS SQL, again, it stores in a hash format. MySQL, no. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Not NetLM, not LM. MD5, NS. Okay, oh, it has a username. NSLDAP, nope. SSHA, no. It has a protocol. OpenSSH. Oracle, nope, not Oracle either, not a PDF. PHP5 MD5, no. No. Raw MD4. This does look somewhat similar, right? Let's try with this first. So, I will go to my virtual box. I have Kali running here. I see a terminal window. Sorry. So what it expects is John is a command, and it expects a format, right? So I'm going to type in the format raw MD4, then first IdentityShield. I'm going to create a file with the password, right? Password hash, that is E5, right? John format equal to raw. This visible, right? Font I can increase. And the next thing it expects is the hash, which is identity shield. Then it expects something called a word list. And there are very common word lists. The one that I am going to use is called ROCU. So it's USR share word list. So Kali comes default. Kali already has this word list, and I'm going to use ROCU. And I am going to type in. Actually, this is all there is. Okay. That did not work. It did not give me the password, and I feel it is kind of insulting me as well. So, not the correct format. Okay, so it's not raw MD4. There's a raw MD5 as well. Let's try that. Oh, okay. I seem to have got the password. Let's try to log in. I already have the password now. I have the password here. I have Jim at Juice Shop. Hi there, Jim. How are you doing? Great. So, yeah. Great. So, what we did essentially overall was we figured out that we had broken access control vulnerabilities in that entire system. We were able to exploit those to create an admin account, which is kind of our backdoor. We also were able to use Kali Linux tools to basically infiltrate into somebody else's account. And so basically, broken access, we were able to do some recon. We were able to figure out some stuff, some assets that these guys were holding. We were able to do an actual exploit. We were able to maintain persistence. And the only thing I guess we were not able to do right now, and I am not going to cover much to it, is because it involves a lot of Docker networking and all, is hiding all those log information. So that can be a topic for a separate session. And yeah, so again, coming back to Juice Shop, it has a very good gamification system where it shows you a scoreboard of what all stuff you have done. So that in itself is a challenge where you have to basically find a scoreboard. So I've already been able to do that. So I'm just going to show you the scoreboard so you can track different stuff, such as what all you've done over here. And it shows you what type of vulnerability it is, or category, and admin section basically is one. So basically admin section of the store, you try to access that. So that's what we did in the first thing that we did. And it shows you the difficulty to it. Does give us a couple of hints as well if you want, but I would recommend trying that before actually going for any sort of hints. Okay, great. Anyone stuck? Anyone still trying? Okay, that's fine. Not an issue. So going back to my presentation, where all stuff. So this is one place where you can learn. The other places that you can use is OneHub, which has a set of preset machines that you have, which you can deploy in VirtualBox and do some exploits on it. It's a very good way to learn. And there, if you want to say, if you want to learn XSS, if you want to learn SQLi, they'll have machines specific to those categories of attacks, and you'll be able to use those machines on your environment and try these before you want to try a live program. TryHackMe and HackTheBox are online platforms that you can do. So they have a preset. They basically gamify the whole thing where they'll create a whole challenge of sorts where you have to get into some system networks. It's not just web apps; it's even networks over there. So it's a very good idea to try this as well. It's a good fun weekend tasks that you can probably do when you want. And last, try a live program. So there are bug bounty programs, BugCrowd, HackerOne. So you can try those. You can try your hand on those and try a live program of sorts. So lot of these programs, a lot of these big companies, what they do is they come on these platforms, Hack the Box, not Hack the Box, sorry, Bugcrowd and HackerOne, and they post some and they give their programs over there and ask people, bug bounty hunters, to try and attack the system, and they reward them financially if they find something. So they have very specific scopes where they want the attackers to try. So if you're trying those on those platforms, make sure you keep in scope. Do not venture out of it. There are legal loopholes to that. Right. Takeaways. We looked at attacking basic web applications. Again, revisited OWASP Top 10. A few features about Burp Suite and how to use those along with Foxy Proxy. And looked at basically just an intro into Kali Linux. Not too deep into it. We just tried the John the Ripper. And we tried an actual live session where we tried attacking a vulnerable web application. All right. So some references. I have put all those links over here. I think just Foxy Proxy is missing because I'm not sure what browsers you guys are using. So I'll put this in the shared clipboard as well. All right. Any questions? Or feel free to ask any questions. If you're asking questions right now, I think there is a mic over there in the hallway. I would prefer if you use that. Was anyone able to get it done by a show of hands? Everything? Or did you guys lose somewhere in the middle? In any case, I will be around for today as well because it's the last day of the conference. So I'll be here. If you want, if you have any questions, if you have any doubts on how you want to address stuff, I can definitely help you out. We can do a live hack at that time as well. Right? Perfect. And any feedback for this session and how it can be improved, I'll be glad to hear that. You can just scan your QR codes and here's that. All right, you've been a good audience, and I hope you have a fantastic end of the conference, and hope you'll learn something from it. Thanks a lot.